Greetings, technicians. This is Admin Krow here, your coach of the Toronto Star Raptors, and I'm with Clutchsometimes, and we are doing a power ranking or a draft analysis for Season 4 of the PCL, the Pokemon Champions League. Clutch, you can say hi.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Clutchsometimes, here with Admin Krow doing some PRs.
Yep. So this is the first time I have done a power ranking myself. What about you, Clutch?
I've done a couple, but not really that much.
Okay.
Please take everything I say with a grain of salt.
So you guys ready to get bashed? Anyways, I'm gonna try to stay as less biased as possible in those power ranking breakdowns. Obviously, I'm not one of the participating coach this season, but I am the front office for Paluki, so do consider that. Do have that in consideration. Take my advice with a grain of salt. But like I said, we're actually gonna. The way that me and Clutch decided to do this is that we're gonna go over all the teams, talk about the pros and cons, and how we think, I guess, each one of those drafts are individually, and then I'm going to have the power rankings, or I guess the actual placement of the rankings at the end of the video. So make sure you guys stick around till the end. So yeah, let's just get started. I have right here, this is not in any particular order, so we're just trying to go over every coach's team. So first up, I have Face's team right here. Clutch, do you have that pulled up?
I do.
Okay, so this is Face's team for, as you guys can see on the screen. So what I did, and I basically have all the hazards and hazard controls, and also the crucial momentum bringing moves such as U-turn and Volt Switch pulled up for every single mon here. And I thought about doing priorities too, but that's gonna be a little bit too much. So I want to quickly go over basically Face's team right now. So just quickly looking at his draft, he has Fire, Water, Grass Core via a Victini, Venusaur, and Gyarados, and Dragon Fairy Steel through Bisharp, Ribombee, and Hexorus. Any opening thoughts on his team, Clutch?
I really like, obviously the Web's offense is just kind of scary. Ribombee plus Bisharp plus Haxorus and Gyarados on Webs. I believe that is Z Gyarados. I think FaZe confirmed that recently. So Z Gyarados on Webs is obviously a massive threat.
No, it's definitely, I totally agree. If that's the Z captain for FaZe, that's definitely the case. And just quickly, I want to quickly mention that we don't actually have the Z captains for every single team here, so we're trying to make educated guesses for the teams that we don't have the Z captains for, and obviously some teams are going to have more of a, I guess, no-brainer Z captain than other ones. So we will try to take that into, I guess, the final power ranking. I guess just take that into consideration as well. So from my side, I think also Donphan is a really good potential, I guess, for
good support here for sure
for Z captain as well. But he did pick up Gyarados afterwards. That's going to be his, I guess, tier 2 plus Z captain, right?
Yeah, I think Ribombee is really solid, potentially a tier 3 minus Z captain. Quiver Dance plus Z is kind of a good option to have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and he does have both fast U-turns and one slow U-turn. He does. Actually, he has 4 U-turns, right? And he doesn't have Volt Switch. He does have Volt Switch as well. I just don't have that. I'm just fixing it right now. But obviously, Electros gets both U-turn and Volt Switch.
Yeah,
he has
electric types that gets both.
Yeah, for sure. He has a lot of fast U-turns and one slow Volt Switch.
It's great momentum to bring in this big scary Haxorus in the back as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Hexorus can be a really solid Z captain as well. because it's
Yeah.
large. I guess not only it gets access to Dragon Dance similar to Gyarados, but it also has that advantage of being able to just abuse its 147 attack, and fairies are not really a switch into it.
Plow through.
Because you can just Z
yeah.
corkscrew crash or acid downpour the fairy types anyway.
Yep. The outrage is also just a monstrous nuke option in the right spot as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to quickly mention that the fact that he also have webs Bisharp is definitely a very potent threat as well.
Yeah. Victini on webs is kind of a cool piece as well with this team, because Victini helps supports Gyarados really well in beating out fast batter grass types.
Yeah.
And eventually getting a second V create off with webs is very nice.
Yeah. The only thing that I don't really, I guess, dislike about his team, now we're trying to you guys ready for the bash? Anyways, is that his only stealth rocker is pretty much Donphan, unless he's gonna try to set up rocks with Bisharp, and he does have rapid spin on top of, I guess, 2 defoggers. Yeah, and both of these defogging options aren't that great. One of them is Ribombee, and the other one is Braviary. So I guess if you want to bring a Braviary, you'll probably go with some more offensive sets. Same with Ribombee.
Exactly.
It's really difficult to fit both Sticky Web, Defog, and Quiver Dance on the same set. But and those 2 defoggers aren't all that reliable.
No, and Ribombee much rather be clicking like webs and doing more other things. Braviary can run a more support set, but with that big attack stat and potentially also Defiant boost, it also would rather be clicking more offensive buttons.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good point there. He also gets Defiant similar to Bisharp. And the other thing is basically there's too much pressure on Donphan to take care of all the hazards all by itself. And the other thing is his speed tier outside of Ribombee, right? His fastest thing, I believe, is Frostlass.
Yeah, I mean it bridges fairly well, but like Frostlass isn't the most consistent in that high speed tier.
Yeah, exactly. And usually you would like to probably use it as a lead to set up spikes as well. So it's very difficult to, I guess, to play multiple roles with Frostlass if you're trying to use it offensively and try to set up spikes as well. So
yeah.
Okay, but for the most part, his speed tier looks okay. But
speed tier looks good.
Could be a little bit better, but
I think Venusaur's kind of weird on this team, to me at least. I think it's kind of a momentum sponge if we're just looking at this from an offensive perspective.
Yeah.
Because Venusaur comes in and takes a hit, but it doesn't really get out the best. It doesn't have ways to get it out as easily.
Okay. I don't know about that, but it looks fine to me. But okay. But definitely a cool squad he's got here. Not to mention the versatility Victini brings. The other thing is, like you mentioned, from another point of view, if you consider Venusaur a sponge, which it obviously is, it doesn't really bring you momentum in a sense that, unlike Electros, he can take a hit and potentially switch out. But with slow U-turn or Volt Switch, right? So you can switch back into your offensive threats. But unlike, but Electros doesn't have the best recovery. But
no, it has no recovery.
Yeah, exactly. So Mega Venusaur doesn't have the best momentum. So
that's fair. I can see that.
So okay. Anyways, let's just moving on to the next one. So I'm looking at Lovecraft's draft.
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna try to break it down again through the main course. We're looking at Fire, Water, Grass for Incineroar, Slowbro, and Rotom-Mow, and
as well as Amoonguss.
Oh, Amoonguss, yes. There's double grass right there. And, those 2 grass types, it's pretty interesting, but we'll get to them. And Dragon, Fairy, Steel. Do I see a Dragon type?
I do not see a Dragon type.
Okay, so we have Steel type for Cobalion and Grambo for Fairy.
A fairy type.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't like.
No, I
Oh,
think
you
you're.
did this one.
Unless I'm.
Yo, okay. Just make sure he doesn't actually have a dragon.
I don't see a dragon.
Okay, that's fine. Dragon types are not a necessity in Draft League. They're nice to have.
I think steels and fairies are much more important than a dragon.
For sure. So at first glance, his team looks pretty solid. He has a ground type, and he doesn't. He has 2 volt switches through Rotom Mode and Cobalion. And his speed tier is breaked up super well. Because
with a lot of options like momentum wise.
Yeah.
It pivots really well, but to me, it doesn't feel like it gets. I'm gonna start bashing early, I guess. It doesn't feel like it gets to anything. There's not a true breaker on this team outside like Mind Chow. And maybe Z Tornadus can break.
I guess, yeah. Cook probably will have to take on the role of setting up rocks if he doesn't want to run Cobalion rocks every single time. But
arrow rocks.
Yeah, it's very unlikely he will have rocks on arrow. So, what else?
He's got good removal options. Like Tornadus is a great removal. Has great removal options.
Yeah, I really like his speed tiers. A lot of these mons are above 100, even 110.
Yep.
And plus, a lot of those fast mons can run a Scarf relatively well as on top of that. So his potential Scarfers are looking at Cobalion, Rotom, Ming Xiao, and even Crocodile with Moxie, and even Torn.
Crocodile's a good Scarfer, yeah.
For sure. So his speed tiers is something that stands out right away to me. And he does have a Rapid Spinner as well. So there's not too many teams in the league that has Rapid Spinner. So that's one thing to note.
I actually don't mind Double Grass on this team.
Yeah,
honestly.
for sure.
Double Grass is
really
kind of a nice thing.
Share the same weaknesses outside of Ice. I believe that's the only one.
Yeah. And he's got a good ice resist, and Slowbro is just like a great ice resist along with Cobalion as well.
He does have that fire, steel, and water type to back it up. That's why fire, water, grass, and dragon fairy steel is so crucial to. Another thing, I guess. Another reason for him, I guess, for him to not to have a dragon type, I can see that is not to expand his existing ice weakness. Yeah. And not to mention the fact that he does have that Amoonguss Bro dual regenerator core. So
triple with Tornadus.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I overlooked that. For sure.
And if you really want to get fancy, quadruple with Mind Chow.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I was talking with Paluki the other time, where Min Xiao and Torn T are the only 2, I guess, U-turners with regenerator, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's true.
Yeah, so like it's a mon that can bring you momentum. Also, at the same time, it's not afraid of taking hits. And it can put on offensive pressure, unlike Amoonguss and Slowbro, right? So that's definitely something really cool there. So it force switches, so you can U-turn more comfortably to bring yourself.
I would love to see like T-Spikes on this team, honestly.
Yeah, his poison type doesn't.
T-Spikes with this like regenerator core, with this whole big regenerator, scary
slowly
core
worn
here
down your opponent, right? So yeah.
Exactly, just bringing in things like Arrow and Crocodile.
Always that slow and steady. Game plan in the back pocket.
Yep.
So yeah, without a dragon type, does he really lack anything offensively? I'm just looking at his draft right now.
He doesn't have much. He doesn't have much specially outside after Tornadus. It's a fairly physical team. Crocodile, Mind Chow, Mega Arrow, Instant. Cobalion can be run special, I guess, but not necessarily a breaker.
Slowbro and Rotom. Like it's I see what you mean. It's very difficult for him to break from the special side. Okay, and the one thing to do, I want to quickly mention is I'm pretty sure, Cryogonal actually gets Ice Shard. So I just want to quickly go over the priority options he has.
I think Mind Chow gets Vacuum Wave? No, it does not. Never mind. Tell us to me. Mind Shell's kind of a cool Pokemon, honestly.
Yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
it does not get
Like,
the options instead of Fake Out.
I have a little bit, love and hate about Lovecraft's draft in general. Like, his draft is always type of draft that I would pick. But, so which means he's if we're in the same league, like he most likely snipes me more often than not. So I usually have to like drive away from my initial draft plan.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks really solid.
Yeah, it's really stable defensively for sure.
So we're just gonna quickly talk about this. Whose team do you like better? Just from the points that we go over. I know I have seen your power rankings, the list that you came up with, but obviously when we're recording, we went over more points, right? So whose team do you like better? FaZe's team and Lovecraft's team?
I think I like Lovecraft's. Kind of, they're two very different teams.
Yeah.
I just like
I
like Lovecraft's ability to pivot.
Yeah. Sorry, FaZe, but we have to give this one to Lovecraft. Okay, so we're going in order here. So next one we have Lo-Fi's draft. Okay, I started laughing before I even. I'm sorry, bro. So basically, his draft is Mono Gen 2. Yes. Last season, in case you guys didn't know, he had a Mono Gen 1 team, and this time I had to draft it for him for the most part because he couldn't get up that early due to time zone issues. So I don't have too much things to say about his draft. What about you?
I actually don't dislike this draft.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's Mono Gen 2, and it's almost kind of it's almost meme-y, but like. This team can hazard stack. This team can definitely hazard stack it pretty well. They got two spinners. It's got great offensive threats in Azu and Tyranitar and Raikou. Both of which with good hazards up, they can just run teams. So it's something to be definitely careful of. Typhlosion's a decent Scarfer.
Yeah, same with Raikou too. I know you have had some experience using it last season for sure.
Yeah, Raikou was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think it's really nice to do it with like spikes from Fortress as well. And
he has both
T-spikes.
fast bow switch and slow bow switch, and he has slow U-turn and potentially fast U-turn if you
I like
get
the
that
momentum
one
because I feel like Azu can definitely do a lot of work with this team. It has the momentum options. It has it has kind of a big role in taking out like ground types with this team.
Yeah, even though I've talked about this draft with Lo-Fi, I don't actually know what his Z captains are. So
Z Azu.
Yeah, it's probably Z Azu and Heracross. Like we talked about this before the recording, but initially Lo-Fi was gonna pick Crobat as his Z captain, and it was sniped by yours truly right here.
Hello.
So yeah,
Z Azu, Z Typhlosion aren't bad options either.
I was thinking more of the Heracross simply because it does have that Moxie boost. It's basically the same idea as Gyarados, but of course it's lacking that speed, and he doesn't really have sticky webs to back it up. But do keep in mind though, I believe he does get agility baton pass through two of his mons. Oh wait, can we even pass speed?
No, we can't pass speed.
Damn it! I'm still in the season 3 mindset. But yeah, he does have really solid hazard control as well. Have both Stealth Rock and Defog on his Gligar, and his slow U-turn can just sponge hits and just be able to pivot out.
Yep.
And just quickly go back to Lovecraft's draft, because I don't think we talked about the Z options for him.
Oh yeah, Z Tornadus I think is super obvious.
Yeah, Z Torn, I agree with you on that one. It's similar to Z Crobat where you have the speed advantage, and you also get coverage moves like Superpower or Heat Wave.
Focus Blast.
Yeah, Grass Knot. I think he gets Grass Knot, right? He's got to get Grass Knot. I don't want to be saying random things.
It does get Grass Knot.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a mon that can go both special and physical and be able to...
Z like Slowbro or Z Rotom-O after that?
Yeah, for tier 7 below, I'm not too sure what he has in mind.
Z Incineroar. The Z Incineroar is kind of a cool option for me, I think.
Yeah, it gets
a
Sword Stance Flame Charge, right? So you can definitely blow something back after SD. So anyways, going back to Lo-Fi's draft, he does have he does have all the hazards in the world because he did draft that fortress. As you guys can see, I have 4 moves here, but it's actually not all the moves I can possibly put on the fortress. It has Volt Switch, T-Spikes, Stealth Rock, which I don't have here because that one's kind of obvious. Spikes and Rapid Spin. So it's a really good hazard just support kit, everything in one.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it actually gets dual screen as well. Now I'm looking at it. Pretty sure it gets dual screen. Yeah, it does.
Does it?
Yeah. Because I did.
Fortress is such a strange Pokemon.
I did get a chance to use it earlier last season, so it doesn't do a lot of things, but it does its job so well, and you basically have everything that you need in a draft league. When it comes down to support, all built in one Pokemon right here for the most part. Yeah, it doesn't like I don't think there's any other Pokemon that does that's more, I guess, compact than Fortress when it comes down to this type of
both as a Pokemon and move pool wise.
Yeah, from a support perspective when it comes down to hazard control.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick on this team.
Yeah, it's his only pick when it comes down to Steel type. If we stay with the whatchamacallit, the Gen 2 idea
Gen
here.
2.
And I really dislike the fact that he drafted Kingdra without Politoed. I was trying so hard to get him to draft Politoed alongside of Kingdra, because he's like literally the go-to ring setter if he's doing mono Gen 2, right? So maybe he'll pick it up at some point later. I'll try to convince him.
Triple Waters would be kind of interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah, just keeping the option open, and he's gonna have a dual weather on his team.
Yep.
Don't forget that Sandstream, Sandvale Gligar. In case you guys didn't know, me and Clutch played in this last season of PCL Season 3, and we were first round playoff opponents. And I had a T-Tar Gligar just like Lo-Fi right here. And I was being able to dodge a couple moves with Sandvale.
Okay, moving on to the next team. I think.
Yes, let's just move on to the next one. So next one, I do have Fury's squad right here. He has Dragon Fairy Steel, 2 Steel types actually, Mega Latios, and for his Dragon, and Metagross, and Registeel for his Steel type. And his Fairy is obviously the Tapu Fini right here. It's actually
as well as the start buff.
Yeah. Similarly, he has Gliscor. I'm not gonna go over it again, but basically he has the same skill set as Gligar, similar to Lo-Fi's team, and it brings momentum obviously through U-turn and Baton Pass, and also gets Stealth Rock and Defog. So that's a really solid 2-in-1 right there. And I don't know about Fini Lucha. It's probably the worst Tapu to pair up with Lucha, in my opinion.
I think so. Just doesn't, because most of the other Tapus have like unloading the break at least for Lucha, and it's just kind of Fini's just kind of strange.
Exactly. All the Coco and Bulu can both help Lucha break. Lucha isn't the most offensive mon when it comes down to attack. It only has 92 attack. You usually have to run Adamant Nature if you want to run a seed set. Yeah, if it's running Jolly, no matter which set you're running, you're not breaking anything.
You almost need to get that SD off.
Yeah, exactly. Really so you pretty much have to rely on your setup, which more often than not is not something you want to, be your only type of option in a draft league style format.
The team just doesn't break for Lucha very well, honestly.
I mean, he can run Choice Band Sharpedo or Choice Spec. Yeah.
Like Gross helps wear down. Double steals help wear berries, and Gross and Reggie are very different steals. But Elo and Muck also helps with fairies, but like as a strong like flying type can check Lucha pretty effectively in this team, and doesn't have much to break it.
Yeah.
Like something like a Tornadus T would be kind of an issue for him. Like Lovecraft's Tornadus T would be kind of an issue. Reggie to me doesn't pair well with Finny
Yeah.
either. Just like it's so passive and it doesn't like the fact
his team, like you mentioned, it is pretty weak to flying spam. And Torrenti, if it's captain, it definitely gets access to Fury Z for his steel types as well. So.
Yep.
Okay, and of course, I overlooked the fairy right here. We have a wait. Well, what's the name that he always give to his Slurpuff?
Is that Pastry Boy? Or
Yeah,
something
Pastry
like
Boy.
that?
And it has to be female too. It's not a fairy draft without Slurpuff, right? So, so basically, his signature mine in every single draft league. So yeah, I'm not gonna say too much about. I'm not gonna say too much about it from that regard.
Yeah.
You use what you like to use, right? Despite the fact that it doesn't really fit well with the rest of his draft.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any sort of momentum bringing outside of
It's like only
Gliscor?
Gliscor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess Halucha gets U-turn as well, but
Oh, true. You're right. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're running Halucha, very unlikely that you're going to be running U-turn due to move star syndrome. And also for Gliscor, it's a pretty good U-turner for slow U-turn, but at the same time, there's so many other things you want to do with Gliscor as well.
yeah,
with
Gliscor runs
hazard
like
control,
consistent
recovery.
core business.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's just a strange team to me.
Yep. Yeah. He definitely have difficulties getting into his offensive threats. He have to rely on sacking mons, and just because the lack of momentum moves in general. So.
Yep.
Anyways, so we do have. He does have a rapid spinner from Hitmonlee. Wait, I'm actually surprised. We went over 3 teams right now, and all 3 of them has rapid spin.
It's true.
Anyways, and he also have sticky web options, but I don't know too much about that.
I don't know if the team can really abuse webs.
Yeah,
though.
exactly, because he already have a speed boost Sharpedo, and he has Unburden Slurpuff, Unburden
There's 3
Halucha.
unburdened ones in this team.
Exactly. But anyways, I guess that's always an option for him if he wants to run offensive Metagross or something.
Mega Latios is weird on this team as well with Feeny. Just like Misty Terrain is nerfing that big base 160 special attack Dragon Stab.
Yeah, it's Latios too. It's not Latias. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, so moving on to the next team, we have Sam's squad. Dragon Fairy Steel, Hydreigon, Alolan Ninetales, and Empoleon. That's what we're looking at. And this guy also have Rapid Spin. Looks like every team is having Rapid Spin. So he's Z captain. Oh yeah, we didn't go over that for Fury. Let me just jump back real quick.
Potential
I have no idea.
Metagross,
yeah, for tier 3 below, that I can definitely see that.
I've got no other option, man. I don't know.
Because he has 2 Unburden mons. Unless he's gonna run it on Finny, I really don't see it on anything else.
I don't know. I really don't know.
He's not gonna run it on Gliscor. Yeah, maybe it's only a question that the man can solve for us himself. Anyways,
so.
Anyways, let's moving on to Sam's draft. He does have a Hydreigon, Alolan Ninetales, and Empoleon. Empoleon is another really good 2-in-1 hazard control. It gets both Defog and Stealth Rock.
Stealth Rock.
And he does have Rapid Spin as well. His speed tier looks pretty nice. He does have that extremely fast Mega Pidgeot, 121 base speed, and also quite a few fast U-turners like Hydreigon and Cinccino.
This team has a lot of good momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
And running Pete's nice for the Volt Switch as well.
The only problem that I see from first glance is that his fast U-turners can safely bring in some of his slower mons, but none of his mons are really bulky enough to appreciate the hit. So what I'm trying to say is, if you U-turn out, right, you need something else to take the hit. Yeah, to sponge it up, or to be able to heal off the damage. He doesn't really have mons that can do that comfortably.
He has like a couple mons with Only has like Shaman and Pidgeot was reliable recovery.
Yeah, and Pidgeot obviously it's not the best.
And Hydreigon.
Exactly, you're gonna be U-turning out with Pidgeot, right? Both Pidgeot and Hydreigon gets roost, but it's very unlikely that you're gonna try to let them sponge the hits if they're the one getting out. He does have Rotom Heat, which is definitely a awesome addition to his team, but alongside of Rotom Heat, Empoleon too can somewhat sponge hit, but both of these does not have reliable recovery. So
yeah, I mean the bulk the way I think it fits well, but it's just gonna get, this team does end up getting more down eventually, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He does have 2 grounded poison types though, so that does help with the
double poison is kind of nice on this team though. I think just like a lot of this like big upfront offense, like with especially Terrakion struggles to deal with like bulky grass types. Maybe a little bit better with the Z move, but like it does struggle to break through them. And the double poison in the back definitely helps with that. And like it was his big threats being like Fairy Weak. That's also another option to have.
Yeah, his team is more of an offensive team in my opinion, for sure. And not to mention the fact that he does have that Aurora Ninetales access to Hail and also to
Aurora Veil.
Of course. And it can help Terrakion set up for sure. It's most likely he's Z captain, if in my opinion.
I think Terrakion's 100% Z captain.
He does get access to Double Dance, and it's I guess the most likely setup sweeper on his team, if not the only one, to couple with that Aurora Veil from the Ninetales. So just to add that sugar on top. In terms of offense,
Cinccino's kind of I kind of like Cinccino on this team just as like as a normal type, just because his team breaks steals fairly well with Nidoking and Terrakion.
Yeah, for sure.
And can kind of help let shape like a bandage Cinccino kind of in this game.
And I also see the fact that he has double poison to deal with fairy types, because he does have that Hydreigon on his team as well. Yep. Which doesn't really appreciate fairy types, even though he does get really access to Flash Cannon. So. But
he's got really good fairy resist and Rotom Heat, double poisons, and Empoleon. Like it fits really nicely.
Yeah, this team is definitely up there in terms of offense. And he has 3 levitators and 1 flying type. So he's really trying to avoid that.
Something I could definitely see this team struggling with was like a strong bulky ground type. So Shaman being like one of the only ways to like really punch through it, as Gengar and Nidoking kind of do get checked by those.
Okay, so like offensively, yeah, that's why I just wanted to mention that he does have 3 levitators with 1 flying type.
Yeah,
he's really trying to avoid mitigate the damage caused by ground types, to protect his 1 steel type and 2 poison types. So
yeah,
like you said, Shaman can sponge those hits pretty well too. So that's like 4 immunities and 1 resist. That should be more than enough. That's kind of overkill. Anyways,
especially when you're pairing with double poisons and Terrakion, though, it makes sense.
Yeah, like personally, I really like his draft. It's just like pure offense.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah, but obviously he has the downside that we mentioned before. It doesn't sustain very well. So his draft is definitely not in for the long run. So.
No.
And he does have T-Spikes, so just wanted to quickly mention that, because not a lot of coaches have T-Spikes. I believe there's only 1 coach that we mentioned previously. Out of all the teams that we went over, I think it was Lo-Fi's Fortress that has T-Spikes. So, okay. Anyways, so moving on. What do you think his tier 3 below captain is?
I think maybe Rotom Heat. I think I discussed that with him yesterday.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can see that. Because Nidoking doesn't need the Z Crystal.
It likes the life orb and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in Gigavolt Havoc, like Z Fire is just solid.
Okay, so up next we have Viper's team. Oh yeah, his squad is kind of interesting.
It's a very interesting team.
I remember he's also missing something. He doesn't have a fairy type, I'm pretty sure. Oh, he does. He has a fairy through Primarina, fairy dragon. His dragon is Megazord X, and his steel type. He has 2 steel type, Bronzong and Magneton. But I guess Bronzong would be playing the steel type role a little bit better alongside with that potential levitate ability than Magneton. Magneton is probably there to serve as a fast low switch for the most part.
Just trap steals for Mew or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just typing in the moves here. He does have both rapid spin.
5 for 5. Wow.
I think he added this. The reason that I don't have it here initially is because
he recently he picked up Serena.
Yeah, exactly. He made an instant transaction after the draft was finished, so I'm just missing a couple items here. But he does have a really solid option when it comes down to Stealth Rocks. Not only Mew can run it, but if you want to run a more offensive Mew, Bronzong and Mudsdale also can take the hazard setting role over.
Arrow can be a good suicide lead with Sash Rock's taunt.
Yeah, for sure. He does have dual screen options through Bronzong as well. So
yep.
Again, it helps with the setup with Dragon Dancing, Megazord X, and he also have two really good.
Scary.
Sorry, go ahead.
Charizard's extremely scary on this team, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
It breaks super effectively with Mew.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Because the only thing that's dragging Mew back is because the fact that he has 100 across the board. So even as a Z captain, even though he's actually a really good Z captain, don't get me wrong, sometimes he has a problem breaking through and some of the bigger walls on your opponent's team, and Charizard just really helps with that.
Yep.
Opens up the door for a potential Mew setup and to help along with its Z nuke. I just kind of assume Mew is his Z captain.
I feel like I think Mew definitely is Z captain on this team.
Yeah. And another fact I want to quickly mention about Viper's team is he has two really good stab priority. One of them is Ice Shard from Weavile, and the other one is Extreme C from Linu.
Also, he has a Vacuum Wave on Toxicroak.
Yeah, and of course Mew and everything else. But
yep,
Mew gets everything, so I'm not gonna go too deep about Mew, since I did a breakdown last season. But it's definitely a really solid mon in draft league. I mean, a captain draft like this.
Especially it helps out offensively, just allows it to break a bit better. A little bit easier because without the Z move, Mew is fairly weak.
Yeah, for sure. And there's you can also do support options, and he also have access to Trick Room, which is something I quickly want to mention as well. So he doesn't really have to play that speed game with his opponents because he does have Serena to prevent priority, and at the same time he has a Trick Room to help it out through both Bronzong and Mew. So. Let's see, and his defoggers are Aerodactyl and of course Charizard. I didn't put it on there.
Charizard.
Yeah, and Mew, of course. Mew gets everything, so I didn't put it on there.
And Rapid Spin on Serena as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's the first thing I mentioned as well. So it looks pretty solid when it comes down to hazard control, for sure. One thing to note though,
especially on that Charizard draft.
Yeah, Charizard definitely appreciate a good hazard control team. So it's also like his defoggers and rapid spinners are good, but his options are pretty limited when it comes down to it, though.
Something's gonna have to come with every time Zard comes or Weavile comes, like he's gonna need that removal option.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little bit lacking, but just because that it's basically the same idea as Faces Draft, where you have to rely on, I guess, spinning from Donphan or Serena.
Yeah, it kind of limits your building in that sense.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. So
if you need removal, you have to bring X Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. So like obviously you're not gonna want to run defog on Mew every week. That you bring Charizard or Weavile. And your only other option will be left with Aerodactyl. So I don't know how feasible that's going to be when the hazard controller is also weak to rocks. So Anyways, I'm sure Viper can make it work. So moving on to the next one, we do have Brandon. Yeah, this guy has an interesting interesting squad to say the least. So for his Dragon Fairy Steel, he has Jirachi and Mega Altaria. That's it. Mega Altaria is obviously both Dragon and Fairy. And for Fire, Water, Grass, I don't think he. Oh, he.
Virizion,
yeah, Virizion, Manaphy, and Ninetales. So his D captain is definitely Manaphy, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Z Manaphy is definitely.
Yeah, because he didn't get to do it last season since I sniped him, but.
I think he said Z captains were Z Manaphy, Z Virizion.
Yeah.
Which are solid.
Yep. And he also has slow U-turn and good defogging options through Manabuzz. And
as well as
good rocker.
Savali.
Yeah. One thing I want to quickly mention about his draft is that as good as it looks on paper, his poison type is not grounded, so which means that he can not actually absorb T-spikes. And he doesn't have a poison type otherwise, so like Weezing is his only poison type. But I guess he can bring poison type Savali if he really wants to. But
he does have a strong defogger that's immune to D-spike, so I can kind of see.
Yeah, and not only he has U-turn through Jirachi and Manabuzz to bring him momentum. Obviously there's Meloetta and Manaphy, but I'm not gonna mention those two. Because you don't really see U-turn ran on those two mons.
No.
But he also have parting shot coming from Savali as well.
Yeah, which is really nice with like Manaphy as well.
Yeah, for sure. That setup through.
Something to note on this team is that his fastest mon is Heliolisk.
I guess it's not bad. It's 109.
Yeah, but there's nothing above that like 115 threshold.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely on the slower end. I think that his next fastest mon is like base 100. So.
No, I mean after that, like I think it's.
Oh, Virizion. Virizion is slower by 1 point.
108.
Yeah, well, which is basically the same speed tier. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And then it's Jirachi, Manaphy, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ninetales. He has 3 base 100s.
Yeah. But
Ninetales breaks really nicely on this team, but again, like Jirachi and Manaphy had to be careful about being out in the sun. Just like.
Yeah, he actually have a potentially dual weather on his team as well. I can see why he has Heliolisk. Just to benefit.
Yeah, Lisk is nice. Solar power Lisk is kind of cool.
Yeah, but benefit from both the rain and the sun. So.
Yep. Oh, and the sand. Don't forget Hippo.
Well, oh, true. It's triple weather. Wait, what does it get in the sand?
It's a sand veil.
Is that allowed?
I think so. I mean, you ran Sandveil Gligar.
No, I'm saying for season 4.
I think so.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I didn't realize he had a triple weather option right here. Okay, that's very interesting. And obviously, one thing I do want to quickly mention that his fastest mon is actually Meloetta if he can get the transformation off with Stirring Grace.
Oh, true.
128 base speed. I actually managed to do it myself every time I brought Meloetta this last season. So it is a definitely interesting mon, but you do have to rely on the Stirring Grace move to be able to pull off that transformation. And plus, every time you do transform, you will have to do it again once you send it in again. So.
You lose a transformation when it switches out.
Yeah, for sure.
Super unfortunate.
What do you think are some of the, I guess, downsides for his draft?
I think everything around that weird speed tier can like.
Yeah, speed tier is definitely one.
They're all very along the lines of the same speed tier. But synergetically the team works nicely, so it's probably not that big of an issue.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a a true breaker, but.
Not really. I mean, Manaphy's a strong breaker.
Yeah, but you have to set up, right? But it's only base 100.
There's no true instant power on this team.
Yeah, there's no instant power there. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Nothing comes out
you
of the box.
You can probably run Choice Spec Heliolisk, but then again, that's only 109 special attack, so.
But you put in the sun, it's an extra Choice Spec.
Yeah, for sure. So the triple weather option definitely makes his draft a lot more flexible.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, nothing really like just has that raw out of the box power.
Yeah. Okay, so but aside from that, the rest looks pretty good to me.
I think so.
Yeah, and the T spikes and
It's
the
a
the speed tier are the only thing that I would say.
T spikes are really nice on this team with like with the Jirachi in the back. Like you get the Iron Head flinch, and you get the extra T spikes damage as well. Like
yeah, for sure. He can also make up that speed tier from the scarf. He's he is a really good scarfer as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on, we do have your draft. All right, so I'm gonna let you start off this one first. What do you like about your draft, Clutch?
Zyg and Mega Gallade is really nice. It's just like a breaker pairing. Great. I like the hazards with Ferrothorn and Ferrothorn's a great hazard setter. Pylo is a nice double ground to put with Zygarde because it's not weak to ice because of thick fat. I don't know. I feel like I can't talk about my own draft without being like biased. So
okay, just say about all the good things about draft. I'll do all the bashing.
Rotom Wash is a nice pivot. It can defog. I have two defoggers that are both being T spikes. Ditto's nice to like help out Clef. Clef hits with this team really well as a status sponge around Rotom Wash and Zygarde and Ferrothorn as well. Liepard's a decent pursuit trapper with Mega Gallade. And
yeah, I really like the fact that you couple Zygarde with Ferrothorn because your opponent has to choose between running Hidden Power Fire and Hidden Power Ice. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you also have Crobat as your Z captain potentially.
Yeah, I am doing Z Zygarde.
Z Zygarde and Z Crobat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It makes sense because Zygarde does get set up to VIE Dragon Dance and Coil, and at the same time...
Z Steel, Z Ground, Z Dragon.
You can really blow back those fairy types. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, you don't really care when you can just be clicking Bandit's 1,000 arrows anyways.
You could, yeah. It's an option to have, which is nice.
Yep, and the Pylo Swine pick just couples up really well with Ferrothorn and Zygarde, like you mentioned. It also helps out Crobat, too.
It makes Zygarde not have to be like the sole ground type on the team, which I think is kind of nice.
Okay, so you ready to get bashed?
I'm ready. My body is ready.
Okay, so basically, actually, I'm glad with your team right after Brandon's. You don't have a poison type, and your only poison type is not grounded. So that's actually one of the bigger the issue that I was talking about your last season's draft as well. I believe me and Lo-Fi was talking about it last season when we were prepping against you. You didn't have like a poison type. I know it's not necessary, but you just didn't have a T-Spike absorber.
That's true.
And on top of that, right, like you said, you have two defoggers, but realistically, are you really gonna run defogging Crobat when he's your Z captain? So
you might. You never know.
So what I'm trying to get at is
it's limited.
Yeah, exactly. You're pretty much your literal only defogger is Rotom Wash, and you have no rapid spin. But Ditto is definitely a cool addition to a team. Anyways, you see how I'm trying to stray away from that.
Yeah, I get you.
Anyways, so another thing that I want to quickly mention is, I like how your team is actually pretty weak to dark spam, but you're trying to mitigate that by having Gallade. So even though it's a fighting type that doesn't resist dark, but it does get that ability justify pre-mega. So it makes your opponent think twice before clicking knockoff.
And Clef is just such a sponge.
Yeah,
honestly.
I know, but like for Clef, if you really try to switch into a dark move, what are you gonna proceed on doing from there? Fire off a Moonblast setup or Stealth Rocks?
Yeah,
like it's not. It's a good mon, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the stats to back it up by sponging those dark moves. Because you're gonna be switching in offensively into a dark move, right? So without setting up, Clef doesn't really take the hits all that well. Yeah, I mean you can make it physically defensive and all that, but What I'm trying to get at is just that it doesn't have the stats to back it up if you're trying to use it as an offensive pivot. So, but outside of that, like offensively, your team looks great for sure. Yeah, but that hazard removal is definitely a concern to me.
Just make my opponent defog for me with all those hazards about to set with fair authority.
Yeah, and you can just out hazard your opponents. That's what I did for the most part. Throughout season 3. So, like I don't even bring defog when I have full Corona and Galvantula. That's so many rock weak options. Anyways, and I just want to quickly go over that you do have 2 options of not hazard removal, but priority. One of them is extreme speed, and the other one is ice shard from Pilot Swine. And not to mention shadow sneak from Mega Gallade. It doesn't get stabbed, but it's definitely he can come in pretty clutch sometimes. You see what I did?
I see what you did there.
Okay, so moving on, we might have to do 2 sessions for this because I have to go pretty soon. We can squeeze in one more team. You guys won't be able to tell the difference because I'll just put the 2 videos together. So next up we have the team for Husang-sama. He has Dragon Fairy Steel through Garchomp, Skarmory. He has double fairy, Comfey, and Whimsicott. I really like Whimsicott on his team, by the way. And he has fire, water. What's his grass type? He doesn't have grass type, does he?
The Whimsicott.
All right, that's right. So Moltres, Milotic, and Whimsicott. So I don't know why Comfey is still in there, but I guess he grabbed Comfey before he grabbed the Whimsicott.
Kind of needs the dark resist with 3 psychic types.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is Whimsicott and Comfey they do very similar roles, but Whimsicott does it better, in my opinion. Yeah. Because both is it Flower Veil? Triage is the ability. Triage and Prankster, obviously they both provides priority, and they provide recovery to both of his fairies in some form. And they both get U-turn and they both get defog. Yeah, I don't know why he drafted Comfey before Whimsicott.
Comfey are more like setup oriented sets with Calm and
he'll probably end up dropping one of them, most likely Comfey at some point. And what else? He also have a parting shot, a very good momentum bringing move, alongside of potential setup Garchomp and setup Zangoose. Even set up Mega Alakazam as well. So.
Yeah, Calm and Zam is a threat.
Yeah, definitely very offensive team overall, and not to mention he also got Hoopa Unbound. So
Hoopa Unbound's a nice breaker. It just breaks everything.
It's a definition of breaker for sure. Can we just assess the fact?
Talking about out of the box power for Brendan, this is out of the box power.
Yeah. Who do you think is gonna be his Z cap? Is it going to be Garchomp or Hoopa?
I feel like a Z Garchomp.
Yeah, I think Z Garchomp more so than Hoopa as well.
I think Z Garchomp, like Z Moltres probably.
Moltres is tier 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Definitely.
Z Hurricane, Z Fire, like.
I believe, like before he made his final 3 picks, I was I didn't like how he has no slow momentum. Like he's only he didn't have Pangoro obviously, but
yeah, and Pangoro's nice momentum.
Yeah, slow momentum for sure. And he has some sort of recovery from Dream Punch as well. So the only reason I said that is because he can't really play the momentum game with his opponent otherwise, because he's Mega Alakazam and Hoopa Unbound doesn't really appreciate U-turns. So a Scarf U-turner will really put his game on an awkward spot. Sure, you can argue
Moltres is really nice.
Yeah,
with that, honestly.
You can argue the fact that he has a lot of bug resist as well. So like Moltres, Skarmory, and he's Fairy. But the point I was trying to get at is that he doesn't appreciate the momentum game. So if I'm his opponent, I'll definitely bring like a Scarf U-turner of some sort. So when
hitting rocks up with U-turn is just
Yeah, for sure. He has two really solid rockers through Garchomp and Skarmory, and at the same time he also have another magic bouncer in the beginning of his draft, Zatu. He also had a magic bouncer in the start of season 3, which was Espeon, if I'm not mistaken. So
I remember Espeon.
yeah. So yeah, he doesn't really have I guess good ways to switch into U-turns without having to lose momentum, of course. So
because like U-turn, even if he brings in Moltres and he gets to
yeah, and like Moltres doesn't appreciate.
You can pressure Moltres.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't appreciate multiple switch-ins being quad weak to rocks. So
exactly.
And he's
it's kind of it's an interesting team.
It's definitely really offensive for sure, for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Megazam on this team. I get it, but like I feel like it's kind of weird with Hoopa.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say too. They're both weak to bug. Again, it's not about bug spam so much. It's about your opponent going for U-turns. So that's the only thing I would say the bigger downfall of his draft. Well, I wouldn't say downfall so much, but I guess a loophole in his draft.
Exactly.
And yeah, he can protect Moltres, and he can afford to play that hazard game, because the fact that he does have Magic Bouncer in his roster is definitely going to change
Skarmory's
the way that his
Skarmory's a good removal option as well.
Sorry?
Skarmory is a really nice removal option as well.
Yeah, for sure. He has Prankster Defog on top of that as well. So yeah, I think we're gonna end it right here. You guys are not gonna be able to tell the difference, so I'm just gonna cut in a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna decide on doing a split session, but Clutch needs to step out, and I guess I will be taking over for this second half. I guess you guys won't be able to tell the difference because I will actually put the two parts together. So yeah, let's just continue with the draft breakdown. Over here we have the draft from Jimmy, and he does have a Sand Core on top of his really fast and furious offense through Darmanitan and Sand Rush Stoutland, and also I believe Sand Force Steelix and Sand Force Landorus Eye. It is, I believe, the first time someone has drafted Landorus Eye in the PCL and try to utilize that Sand Force. We'll see how that turns out. And overall, his draft looks super offensive. He also have a fast Volt Switch through Electivire. He does get access to both physical and special move pool. It has a really wide move pool just to add on to his offense. The only thing that I would say I dislike about his draft more so, I guess one of the bigger loopholes would be his hazard control options are pretty limited. He does have 3 really good rock setters, Como-O, Steelix, and T-Tar, and but his only defogger is pretty much Mantine. Of course, Landorus Eye also gets defog, but it's probably going to be running more of an offensive set, and defog just takes away from that move slots. So he's really he doesn't have a rapid spinner, and he's really his real way of hazard control will be defog from Mantine, and he's pretty much forced to bring Mantine every single week if he wants to secure that defog or as hazard control options. And he doesn't have T-spikes or toxic or regular spikes on his team, I don't believe, as long as Como-O doesn't get spike. Yeah. So out hazarding his opponent is not really an option, but he can afford to play the long game with his opponents, even if he doesn't have the best defog options, because he does have a Wish and the Heal Bell Cleric through the form of Sylveon, and I believe Valplume also gets Aromatherapy. So that's 2 really good clerics there as well. So his team does have a really decent bulk and really fast offense under the sand as well. When he U-turn out or baton pass out, he can safely go into his bulkier mons such as Como or Steelix, or I guess Mantine. Even T-Tar can be used as a defensive pivot depending on the move he's trying to predict. But the only thing is he's slower. He has fast U-turns, right? And he also has fast volt switch. So he doesn't have slow momentum bring moves. Both of his volt turns are fast. So it's going to be difficult for him to bring his faster offensive threats back in because the lack of slower momentum bringing. His only form of slower momentum will be through the form of baton passing Sylveon, which doesn't serve the role of a defensive pivot so well. So that would be, I guess one of the major downsides about his draft, in my opinion. And aside from that, his draft looks really solid. Personally, I really like it, but all the comments that I made above was based on, I guess, more of a balanced draft, or I guess just analyzing the draft as a whole. It doesn't really take my, I guess, personal opinion into account all that much, or I guess personal favor into account all that much. So the Dragon Dancing options are really solid as well. Through Como O, allows him to boost up his speed tier. Right now, his fastest mon would be that just regular Alakazam, and I believe Landorus I is just slightly over 100. So like the rest of his draft looks extremely slow outside of Sand. He doesn't have any speed sitting between that 101 and the 120 benchmark. So a lot, like aside from Lando I, all his other members gets drastically slower. Darmanitan and Electivire sits at 95, and just overall relatively slower draft. But that shouldn't be an option against through Scarf Darmanitan, Sandrush, Stoutland, and potential Dragon Dancing Como O as well. So yeah, moving on, we do have about the Z Captain options. Personally, I believe he's going to Z T-Tar and probably Z Como O for tier 3 and below. If I'm not mistaken, Como O might be either tier 2 or tier 3. If it's tier 2, then it's definitely Z Como O for his higher tier captain. For the lower tier, I'm not actually exactly sure what he is going to Z. I assume probably Electivire, even though it's a tier 5, because the move pool for it is so wide. I actually have trouble seeing what his a tier 3 and below Z captain is. Anyways, so up next we do have the draft for the Mighty Glysker, aka Glysker. He does have Tabubulu. Sorry, did I go over the Dragon Fairy Steel Core for? Yeah, I didn't go over the course for Jimmy, so let me just backtrack a little bit here. But you guys probably already seen the Fire Water Grass is Darmanitan, Vileplume, and Mantine, and Dragon Fairy Steel is Como O, Steelix, and Sylveon. Pretty straightforward there. And the draft for Mighty Glysker, Dragon Fairy Steel is Mega Latias, definitely a very threatening Mega, and Lucario for the Steel type, and also Bulu serving as both a Grass type and a Fairy type, 2-in-1 right there. And the Water type is Suicune, and the Fire type is Alola Marowak. So personally, I really like Mighty Glysker's draft a lot. He's got some really good bulk. On top of that, a lot of his draft is just pure like bulky offense. They can take hits and also can fire back hits. He does have dual electric type, providing 2 really fast volt switches, but both of these electric type does not share the same weaknesses and also do not share the same speed tier. One of them is at 110 for Raichu, and the other one does have Zapdos sitting at a base speed of 100. So his team doesn't really appreciate. I believe it was not flying spam, but I was looking at it before, and I was trying to find a common weakness among his team, but I was really having trouble to identify it. I believe it's not ground. It might be ice spam. No. Anyways, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But there was like one weakness that I was looking at. Was it dark spam? It was either dark spam or flying spam. Anyways, I'm not gonna waste time here, but definitely his team looks very bulky overall. And when we look at the momentum options, he does have both U-turn and volt switch on his Zapdos, which I am missing right here, and also the fast volt switch from Raichu. But he does not have a slower U-turn, or I guess a slower momentum bringing move. But the good thing about Gleisker's draft is that he doesn't really need to rely on the offensive move. The slow momentum so much, simply because a lot of his mons are capable of taking hits. He can just offensively double into them and put on offensive pressure. And his speed tier also break up super well. Both Mega Latias and Raichu sits at 110 base speed, and also Lycanroc Dusk provides a little bit more speed on top of that. Oh, actually, they all tie at 110, I believe. Yeah. I saw Lycanroc Dusk was a little bit faster, but I guess apparently not. It also provides a really good ground immunity options on his squad, both through the existence of Zapdos and the Levitate coming from Mega Latias, and also the fact that Tapu Bulu is providing that grassy terrain for Nidoqueen and Lycanroc Dusk, and Alolan Marowak and Lucario plus Raichu. All 5 of those monsters will appreciate the grassy surge as well, because it does weaken the power of ground type moves. So overall, his draft does have a really good synergy with one another. He also tried to cover up his electric type weakness with just be able to cover Suicune with not only a ground type but also 2 electric type immunities, both Alola Marowak and Raichu with lightning rods respectively. So that's really good. And also I just want to quickly mention that he does have Excel Rock as his priority, Ice Shard through Sneasel, and also Extreme Speed from Lucario. And he can even run extreme speed Raichu if he really wants to. So that's actually probably the most priority I've seen on a team so far. So it's definitely a really good draft in my opinion. And on top of that, he also have a grounded poison type to absorb those T-spikes. I'm just looking at his team for one last time. Yeah, and his defogging options are through Mega Latias and Zapdos. They're not the best when it comes down to it, but they're pretty good defoggers in my opinion, because they can both take hits and both have reliable recovery as well. So that's not bad. So up next we do have definitely one of my I guess more favorite draft in my opinion, the draft from Mighty Gleisker. Now I'm looking at it. So next up we do have Onyx Rayquaza. He's Dragon Fairy Steel. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Sorry about this, because we are doing a captain draft this season, so I'm trying to cover all the potential captains as well. So for tier 3 or below, we're probably looking at either I'm not sure if Lucario is tier 2 or tier 3, but we're probably looking at Bulu for the tier 1 captain, and if I had to guess, probably Lucario, if it's tier 2, then he will be the higher tier captain. If the tier 3 and below captain, we're probably looking at Lycanroc Dusk, if I had to guess. Because he allows, both of these mons allow setup options and through Swords Dance, and you can blow them back with boosted Z move as well. So up next, we do have Rayquaza's draft. His Dragon Fairy Steel is Latias, Mimikyu, and also Mega Aggron. Very solid in my opinion. And also Fire Water Grass, Vaporeon. I don't really consider Mimikyu a grass water core. Vaporeon, Salazzle, and Tangrowth. Definitely really fat and solid core. His draft is a definition of bulky offense for sure. He also have a ground type to back up, to act as a staple almost in every draft league's team. And he does have a triple water type. Actually, now I'm looking at it. He also have that Crowdon as a third water type. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work out. But I see why he drafted a ground type to cover his electric weak draft, to cover for the 3 water types. Of course, he also opens up the potential of grass spam against him, but he also have his fire type, even though it's very fragile, but he does quad resist grass, and of course his dragon and his steel type and his grass type will also resist grass as well. So his other fire type Talonflame also quad resist grass as well. So it's very simple and straightforward in my opinion, his draft, but it's definitely very solid. Again, he also have that sticky web option to help out his potential Dragon Dancing Crowdont, because that thing will appreciate the help of webs, even though it has Dragon Dance options, and also Mimikyu to help it outspeed those base 100s, because it sits right below the base 100 mark. And also on top of that, he has really good slow momentum to help him get into his offensive threats. Both Vaporeon and Mimikyu get baton pass. Especially Mimikyu is such a good baton passer for slow momentum, because your opponent's afraid to hit you with a really hard move, fearing the counter or the mirror code. Does it get mirror code? I don't want to be. Wait, it doesn't get mirror code. Does it only get counter? I don't want to be saying random things. I don't know Mimikyu very well. Sorry, not Mimikyu. Pyukumuku. Have I been saying Pyukumuku? I mean, Mimikyu this entire time? I meant Pyukumuku. But what I'm trying to say here is a mon that gets reliable recovery, and also can basically just sponge a hit and avoid your opponent for going for, I guess, really hard physically hitting moves, especially by having access to counter. So your opponent will think twice before going for a physical attack. Therefore, you can either just set up screens or baton pass out into your offensive threats, allow them to get a free switching to fire off hits. So offensively, I really like his squad as well, and he doesn't really have like too much versatility, in a sense that the entirety of his draft is circulated around Fire Water Grass core and one Dragon Fairy Steel, and he's basically drafted multiple water types and try to compensate for those water types with his other fire or dragon types when it comes down to defensive options. So definitely really solid draft as well. But he's so right now I'm looking at hazards. So defogging, he has Latias for defogging. That's pretty much it, and also Talonflame. But Talonflame is not so much, I guess, not so good of a defogger. So that might be something that he has to work on. And not to mention the fact he does have Volt Switch as well, and also have sponges to be able to absorb the hits such as Mimikyu and Tangrowth, and even Rhyperior. So yeah, up next we do have the wait. Before I go further, I think he's a tier 3 below captain. Is definitely Salazzle. It's a really good tier 3 captain. Because he also get access to Nasty Plot, so he can blow something back after the setup through a Z move. And tier 3 and above is either going to be Latias or Mimikyu, but he did mention that he was going to transfer the Z captain from Latios, which he previously had, to Mimikyu right away. So up next, we do have the draft for Paluki. So this is definitely a draft I can go into a little bit more depth, because I am actually the front office for Paluki. We did come up with this draft all together. Let me just go over one thing at a time, I guess. So his Dragon Fairy Steel Core, right, is Celesteela, Flygon, and Gardevoir. Yes, it may seem a little bit underwhelming at first, but those three actually works pretty well together. Especially Celesteela and Gardevoir forms of, I guess, a very strong offensive core, especially Mega Gardevoir, right? But in his team, regular Gardevoir actually serves a little bit of a better role, simply because he can have access to that trace ability, and on top of that, it can be a really good Scarfer to make up for his speed tiers. And before I go more into depth, the Fire Water Grass core is Mega Blastoise, Arcanine, and Breloom. Very straightforward. Mega Blastoise provides the option of Rapid Spin, and Arcanine gives him priority options via a Extreme Speed. Also gives him an Intimidator and a Fire Absorb through Flash Fire. And at the same time, Breloom is a really good technician, of course. You know me and my technicians, right? And also gives him Spore support. And one of the most threatening electric types in Draft League definitely is Zeraora, with that Volt Absorb ability to be able to cover for his Steel type, his Celesteela. And of course, he also have that Flygon. Going back to the Dragon Fairy Steel Core, it's such a good Dragon type for him. It's going to be a lesser Garchomp, like I said, for almost everybody else, but it's actually the perfect Dragon type for Paluki's draft, simply because it covers up the weaknesses for two of his most potent offensive threats in his tier 1 picks. One of them being Celesteela, the other one being Zeraora. Zeraora is only weak to ground type attacks, which Flygon is immune to, and Celesteela is weak to electric and fire, which Flygon is immune to one of them and resists the other one. And not only that, Flygon also gets access to Roost and Defog. Roost just be able to recover of the damage that you will be taking from being an offensive pivot. He also gets access to U-turn, obviously. He can work as a really good offensive threat because the fact that he's actually a Z captain. I'm pretty sure Paluki is going to end up Z Flygon as one of his tier 3 below captain. So he also gets setup options through Dragon Dance that makes its Z moves even more threatening. And the Stealth Rockers from Paluki's squad is only Blissey and Nihilego, which is a little bit lacking, to be honest. I would really like to be able to do a better job than that. But we pretty much came down to, I guess, having to pick Blissey as more of a bulky Mon, and at the same time he can also set up rocks. So it's not the best option, but it was pretty much what we left with. So that's something we can work with for sure. And also the Rotom Frost pick, can we just go back to it? It's basically another Mon that can cover for Zeraora because it's immune to the ground type attacks. and it's also electric resist for Celesteela, but of course it has the same fire type weakness as Celesteela, but it's lesser of a concern because he does have a fire immunity through Arcanine, like I mentioned before, and he's Dragon, and he's even his offensive threat Nihilego resist fire type attacks, so that's really good. What else? So Mega Blastoise, I'm not gonna go over every single mon obviously, but it's a really good value pick from tier 3. That's why he was being able to pick 2 tier 1s and multiple tier 2s in his draft. So it's more of a value pick than I guess an essential pick on his draft. It works out point wise, and Celesteela is definitely a very threatening and a potent tier 1 Z captain because he can go both physical and special. And if you fire off a Z move, it's very unlikely that your opponent will be able to find out what type of Z you are. It's often like without having to go through some serious calc, because the fact that you can go both physical and special, and you can basically hide the fact that hide which set of Celesteela you are by going for a Z move. Even if you knock out a Pokemon, it's very difficult for your opponent to try to basically back calculate how offensive you are. Just be able to figure out. It's very difficult for your opponent to figure out whether if you're a special one or a physical one if you're only firing off a Z move. And can we just appreciate the fact that he have 2 Beast Boost anyways on his team as opposed to 1, and he does have a grounded poison type as well. That's something that we wanted to ensure when we drafted the team altogether. So I wouldn't put his draft number 1 in the power ranking, but it's definitely a very solid draft. I think we could have done a better job when it comes down to hazard control. Right now we do have Defog from Rotom and Flygon, and also Rapid Spin from Mega Blastoise, so that's 2 Defogger and 1 Rapid Spinners. Ideally, I would like to have at least 1 more Defogger and maybe a little bit more hazards on his end. Right now, there's only 2 Rockers with 1 T-Spiker, which is definitely enough, but maybe not enough to a point where this could be a little bit more, I guess, higher up in the power ranking. Anyways, so right now, let's just move on to the next team. Oh wait, yeah, I think I talked about Z captains. Never mind. So next up, we do have the squad for Life. So he does have Superior, Tentacruel, and the Heatran as his Fire, Water, Grass core, and he actually have 2 electric type. Both of the 2 electric type are immune to electric attacks itself, and also he has whatchamacallit, fast U-turns through Pissimian and Lando T, and both of these mons can go slow as well, and also he has even slower U-turns through Mesprit. I guess Mesprit and Pissimian share the same speed tier. They usually run a slower U-turn to allow more slower pivot to allow more offensive threat to get in anyways. And Lando, of course, is the most used mon. I don't know if it's still the most used mon in the OU tier, but it's definitely a force to be reckoned with, especially if he were to Z captain the Lando T, which is most likely he's going to be his Z captain too. And the fact that his team might have a clearing ground type weakness in at first glance with that double electric type and Heatran, and also not to mention Tentacruel as well. But he does have Superior and 2 ground immunities and 1 ground resist slash immunity before Pinsir Mega Evolves. And after a Mega Evolves, obviously gains that immunity as well. But it is something that he has to be careful with, simply because Superior is relatively fragile, and it can be relatively fragile for the most part. and Lando T does have that quad weakness to ice, hidden power ice. So basically, ground spam with hidden power ice might be an issue for him. So he's pretty much his only reliable ground spam switching will be that Mesprit. So that's something he might have to play around for sure. And aside from that, I think offensively his team looks really cool because the fact that he does have that Lando I with potential Flying MZ. On top of that, he has Mega Pincer. Very interesting burst spam choices of options, and he also have that Heatran to help those two mons to break through steel types in case there's the necessity to, in case they need it. And but both Mega Pincer and Landorus T does have access to Earthquake as well to help out with the basically breaking through ground types. So sorry, steel types. So Porygon Z is also a really interesting option here because the fact that he does have that Mega Pincer, which allows him to quad resist fighting type attacks, and also he has Mesprit, which resists fighting type again, and Tentacruel also resists fighting type. Not to mention Lando T is a flying type with Intimidate, which also covers his fighting type weakness on Porygon 2. So that's very interesting. So Porygon 2 itself is already a annoying mon to deal with all by itself, and now he has 4 to 5 different options he can back up that fighting type weakness. So yeah, of course it definitely help out Heatran as well from that regard. So it's a very solid draft in my opinion, and of course he also have T-Spikes with a grounded poison type to be able to help absorb those T-Spikes on the ground, and also a rapid spin option as well. So very solid draft in my opinion. The only thing I question is about the dual electric type. I don't know what's the point of having Lantern for the most part. Yeah. I don't really understand the Jolteon Lantern choice altogether. I mean, it makes sense to have one of them. It's not like he needs another water type outside of Tentacruel. So it could be a little bit interesting, but Lantern does provide that water type immunity as well to help out Landorus and Heatran. It is a mon that couples with Landorus very well from that regard. And yeah, the only thing I would say I guess question a little bit about his draft would be the lack of hazard control. Outside of rapid spin from Tentacruel, his only type of hazard control is defog from Drumpa and defog Landorus. I guess I'm missing it here, but I don't think that's enough. Typically Landorus don't really run defog if you really want a, I guess, offensive want it to be an offensive threat, and you already have Pincer for the bird spam. So if you really want to protect your Pincer, you really need more defogging options. And I assume you're not going to bring Drumpa every single week just for defog. So whenever you bring Mega Pincer, you pretty much only have to rely on Tentacruel to be able to get rid of those rocks for it. And Tentacruel doesn't have reliable recovery as a hazard remover, so the hazard removing option is definitely limited here. I don't know if it will be suffice for a mon that has quad weakness to Stealth Rock, so that's a little bit questionable. That's the only thing that I would say. So yeah, his Dragon Fairy Steel is Heatran, Drumpa, and what's his fairy type? Oh, does he not have a fairy type? Yeah, he actually does not have a fairy type, which is kind of interesting. So does this mean that it opens up the door of dragon spam? Oh, it does. So it's basically dragon. He might have an issue with dragon spam. His only dragon resist is Heatran, and a lot of dragons does get access to Earthquake. So yeah, just before I was about to move on, I noticed the lack of fairy type here. So that might be something that Slife wants to work on. Maybe drop one of the electric type for a fairy type. That would definitely help. So up next we do have Toast. We are coming to the end of the draft analysis. Okay, so Toast's draft is actually very similar to what Paluki had last season. His Dragon Fairy Steel is Tapu Koko for Fairy, and also Diancie, Mega Diancie for Fairy. Steel type is Scizor, and his Dragon type is Guzzlord. I don't know too much about Guzzlord, to be honest. Yeah, hopefully he can make it work. Just from his draft alone, the fact that he has 2 poison types with T-Spikes, I think that's kind of over redundant. Both Roserade and Quillfish. They're basically like the poison grass and the poison water. You don't really need 2 poison types that plays like I guess very similar role. And on top of that, I guess you can run more of a offensive Roserade, but more defensive Quillfish to be able to sponge the hits with Intimidate and set up T-Spikes and absorb them as well. And another thing is the reason I say Toast's draft is very similar to the Paluki's draft last season is because his teammate doesn't actually handle rock spam very well. Because his Steel type, being Scizor, does not resist rock, and his Mamoswine, being a ground type, does not resist rock either. His only rock type resist is actually Primeape, and I doubt he's going to be bringing Primeape every single week, or just act as a rock resist so much. But the other thing I do have to give credit to him is that he does have one of the better rock spammers in the game. Being Mega Diancie, so it's sort of like a deny pick for everybody else. Not only provides that potential hazard control through Magic Bounce, but it also gets access to rocks, so it's pretty much free rocks whenever it sends it in. So it pressures the opponent more with their defog, so he doesn't have to use defog so often himself, and he also have that access to probably one of the best Tier 3 and below Z captains, Sandor's Eye, and also the access to Prankster defog. So that's something really that can come in really clutch in many situations. So if he can really, it's probably one of the better defoggers as well. So I really like his hazard options, and at the same time, like I mentioned before, Mega Diancie is like a deny pick for everybody else because the fact that he doesn't really handle rock spam too well, and the Mega Diancie, being one of the better rock spammers, does have that special, or I guess exclusive move or signature move, Diamond Storm. That's 100 base power and have a really good bonus effect to get +2 attack. Defense at a 50% chance to proc. And Tapu Koko itself is very potent threat from both the physical side and the special side because of that electric terrain. So the Z captain for tier 1 above is definitely Tapu Koko, if I had to guess, and for tier 3 below is definitely Thunderous Eye, and I can also see Roserade being one of the options there. So, and yeah, I believe that's it. Moving on to the final team of Origin, the draft league for Origin this season. We do have White Lotus. His draft is actually really strong offensively. I looked at his draft before this video as well. He has Kieran Black, Florges, and the Mega Scizor for his Dragon Fairy Steel Core, and for his Fire Water Grass he has Rapidash. Okay, I'm not gonna talk too much about Rapidash. Yeah, it does have Flash Fire though, so that's one fire immunity. It's sort of like leftover pick, I will assume, and Jellicent is actually like a really good pick for him, just synergy wise. I'll go over it in a little bit. And also he has what's his grass type? Does he not have a grass type? Interesting. I don't think he has a grass type, unless I'm missing something. Is this a grass type? This is not a grass type. Yeah, I don't think he has a grass type. So it's just fire and water. So what weakness does that open up? Anyways, we'll go over the hazard control options. He does have Shuckle, yeah, Shuckle the Lord, and that gives him Sticky Web and Stealth Rock. It's a little bit more passive, but his draft is anything but passive for everything else. So it's actually basically like the glue of the team, I would say. Same with Jellicent to patch up the potential fighting type weakness, because the fact that both Type No and Kieran Black, also Digger Speed, doesn't appreciate fighting type attacks, and he's taking the pressure off Florges. And he also drafted a Dark type that's not weak to fighting type attack, so that's really good. Both Azov and Sandra's T, yes, they are fighting resist, but they are relatively frail with no reliable recovery. It will be, I guess, it will be less likely, I guess, or more difficult to pull offensive doubles into those mons. So Jellicent definitely acts as the glue of the team to be able to patch up a couple weaknesses here and there, and also it covers for the potential of water spam against him, because he doesn't have that option of grass type. This gives him a water immunity, so Kieran won't be the only one who can take on water type attacks. So so that's really good. Like, it's basically just Jellicent and Kieran Black for water spam, right? So yeah, no, I'm just going through his team while trying to analyze here, and he does have really good potential of slow U-turn through Type No, and also fast U-turn from a fast U-turn Volt Switch from Sandra's T, and also fast U-turn from Digger Speed, or slow U-turn, depends on how he wants to build it, because that 78 base speed allows a very good Scarfer, and at the same time he can go slow if he go minus speed nature to provide a slower U-turn. So, not to mention, he also have a very solid slow U-turn through Mega Scizor, and also fast U-turn through Azov. And Mega Scizor also gets Baton Pass. Baton Pass is not banned this season, but you cannot Baton Pass speed, so most likely he's going to be running U-turn anyways over Baton Pass on his Mega Scizor. So the defogging options and hazard control options looks really solid as well. He does have a defog on Skuntank and Mega Scizor, and also on Sandra's T. But Mega Scizor and Skuntank will be the main mons that will have defog access, or playing the defog role for the most part. But he does have to be careful that unless he's bringing Skuntank, he's pretty much I know Mega Scizor is a really good defogger, but it's the options. When I say really good options, I mean like it's a solid defogger, but he doesn't have too many ways to get rid of the hazard. So he might have to be careful with potential I guess just hazard stack against him, and just be able to take advantage of his Mega Scizor through the does this thing get defogged? I think this thing does get defogged. Yeah, through Hidden Power Fire. So this opens up more options as well. So the fact that I overlook Florges getting defogged, this will definitely take the pressure off Mega Scizor. And so yeah, it's a very strong offensive draft as well. And not to mention the fact he does have quick attack from Digger Speed, that's another stab quick attack, and Bullet Punch from Mega Scizor, Technician boosted too. So that's the main two. Of course, there's Sucker Punch coming from Skuntank as well. So yeah, offensively, this thing, his draft looks incredible because of the ground spam, and be able to couple Digger Speed with huge power with Kieran Black to try to break through those steel types that Kieran Black does not appreciate. And also Mega Scizor does not appreciate as well. And and whatchamacallit, Thunderous T to break through those bulky waters for Mega Scizor and Kieran Black too. So definitely a very nice draft overall. He does have a grounded poison type, so this allows him to absorb the T-Spec without having to rely on hazard control as well. So very solid draft, very solid indeed. So this is going to be the end of the team breakdown, and the power ranking should come up on the screen momentarily. Personally, I'm going to be doing the power rankings right now, and you guys should see it on screen, because everything will be, you know, cut together by the time you guys see this video anyways. So here's the ranking. There you go. So that is the ranking. I'm going to scroll down so you guys can see all the placements, and of course just keep in mind the power rankings is not really a representation of how well a team will perform. And this as much as I try not to be biased about the draft, of course this is at the end of the day mine and Clutch's personal opinion. I did take some of Clutch's opinion into consideration, looking at his ranking as well. So this will we end up coming up with basically, and I will leave a link down in the description below to basically this exact spreadsheet if you guys want to take a closer look. Do keep in mind also that there are a couple of instant transactions that was made right after the draft was completed. I did try to include as many as I can. I believe there was quite a few transactions from FaZe, and there's also one transaction from Slife that wasn't included in this power ranking. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and good luck to all the participating coaches this season, and hope you guys have a blast. This is going to be Admin Krow here, signing off. See you guys next time. Goodbye, technicians and my good people of the PCL.